Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Hocus Pocus 2 on Disney+. Now, I did watch this when it came out originally in 2022, but I decided to not really review it, but since I was doing the first Hocus Pocus and wanted to kind of do a thing with that, I decided to do this one as well. So I rewatched it. I'd seen that they were also putting it on TV, and I have more problems with this one than I did the first one, mainly because of weird kind of retcons and things that kind of go on. Now, my main problem actually is just bringing back the Sanderson sisters, because Hocus Pocus really didn't need them as their kind of anchor base or anchor characters. I think it actually kind of creates more problems because you're then bringing back the actresses and they're older and trying to then kind of deal with that kind of fact as they're being resurrected again by a black flame candle, which looks like a chode dick, and actually wasn't made by them, or had any kind of personal effects from them, like hair or whatnot. It doesn't make sense why it brings them back. Also, we get introduced to this character Gilbert, who only pretty much saw them die and didn't really see them in their musical number, but is like fanboy for them, and he's able to read the book, but it's later on told that the book can only be shown to a coven of witches. Another witch gives them the book, but they had stated that their master, the devil, would give it to him in the first one. Covens are really kind of weird here because Winifred has more of the power than her sisters until this one spell is done, and Becca and her other two friends, Izzy and Cassie are just essentially batteries to power up Becca. It's really kind of weird. And they also do the Sanderson sister kind of walk thing for some odd fucking reason. And a weird kind of thing is the movie Hocus Pocus exists in this world. Why do we need to be that meta? The meta and weird jokes and talking about stuff from the time period still occurs here, and it's just kind of done to death. It's like, why does this exist here? It's been 29 years, because that's 2022, 1993, and it's just, oh god, it really creates a lot of problems. Sorry that I kind of dumped, but those are kind of the things that we needed to kind of hit on, because I wanted to hit on them first. So, this movie starts out showcasing the Sanderson sisters when they're pretty much 16, Winifred, in 1653. This preacher Trask is trying to get Winnie married off to this other dude, but they're playing off that she was with Billy, and it takes them 40 years, 40 years to get to the 1693 kind of scenario. It's oh god. But we see how the sisters interact. This is actually kind of a cool thing to see how that kind of works out. Getting Winnie a spider and everything. Them making jello, which is kind of weird. Before the spider kind of creates havoc, they run off into the woods and pretty much meet who they refer to as Mother, giving her pretty much book, telling her happy birthday and everything. She was going to eat them first, utilizing the spell to pretty much get Sarah. But it's no, it's alright, let's kind of see how this kind of goes on. And to tell her to never cast the Magica Maxima spell, which makes the user all-powerful. Again, it does not explain why you would do this spell, and if that would negate anything that goes on with the Black Flame Candle. And of course, they start utilizing the spell and pretty much burn down Reverend Trask's house. So we get to 2022. We see that Becca and Izzy have kind of problems at school with their one friend Cassie, that she's pretty much gotten a boyfriend and is ignoring him, even though not intentionally. But see, the thing is, the movie's more preoccupied with doing this stuff with the Sanderson sisters, which I really wish that they had pretty much set off the mother figure as the one trying to tempt Becca and Izzy, potentially Cassie, into being a coven and then fighting them, or them getting tutelage from her and fighting another kind of coven or whatnot. It's Hocus Pocus. It's witches and fighting and that kind of stuff that could have worked out on that kind of thing, because Hocus Pocus didn't need to just be the Sanderson sisters. But no, they pretty much have to rehash shit and do this kind of shit again and then add other kind of stuff. Like, I don't peg Hocus Pocus as a musical. But we've got the Sanderson sisters being resurrected by the Black Flame Candle and doing a musical number for Becca and Izzy. Which was like, why? And then them rehashing the thing and doing a Back to the Future reference and telling them to keep up as one way or another they sing it's to pretty much get the group to try to go after Mayor Trask this time. It's like, whatever. And it really doesn't accomplish anything. So they're pretty much trying to do Becca's 16th kind of birthday, but it's just Becca and Izzy at this point, and there's a other party thing going on with Cassie and her boyfriend, who is just stupid as shit. Though he does mean well, it's chopped down pretty much. There's vastly more interesting aspects with the new kind of characters that get shafted because we've got Gilbert fanboying over the Sanderson sisters and then having to pretty much be like, oh, they're going to kill my ass. This really kind of sucks. They were misunderstood and everything. It's like, as he pretty much tricks Becca and Izzy to lighting the Black Flame Candle, and Gilbert couldn't do it because he wasn't a virgin. And trying to get everything kind of worked out like that. So they learned that Trask is alive. They pretty much locked Becca and Izzy down in like a kind of cellar. But they're able to get out because of Becca's powers. They warn Trask about Cassie to pretty much get him out of the wind. He's attempting to get this candied apple from this like famous person that was on GMA, and that's pretty much his thing. He is not like Reverend Trask. Reverend Trask was an asshole back in 1653. Here, he is actually just a pretty chill dude. He's not really that much of an asshole. Cassie pretty much did a party without him knowing, so him being like, hey, this isn't really cool. You guys could have gotten hurt or whatnot. Let me know about that. Well, we don't even get those kind of interactions because we've got the Sanderson sisters. The Becca and Izzy pretty much are able to kind of get away from him. They pretty much try and do the whole like children's soul kind of thing with serums and stuff. And at first they get tricked by like a cell phone filter, but then they see this other thing that like warps their reflection and just acts kind of stupid. And whoever does Sarah Jessica Parker's eyebrows in this movie, holy goddamn fucking shit. It is distracting as shit because most of the time they look like giant fucking caterpillars or drawn on fucking things that are just, oh god, what the fuck. And they pretty much get brought up to like, this is where they get to the whole kind of singing kind of bit for a Sanderson sister kind of thing, and they lose, but then they're like, fuck you. So they pretty much want to get revenge on Reverend Trask and decide to cast a Magic Maxima spell, which I don't know why you would fucking do that. They, of course, are like, hey, Gilbert, if you don't get all this stuff in time, you're going to die. And, of course, they need the head of a lover. This brings back Billy, who, for some reason, he went to sleep at the end of the first movie, but evidently has not been asleep. And then he kind of gets his own kind of thing at the end after pretty much Becca and Izzy and them are able to pretty much, for lack of a better term, help the Sanderson sisters. So they needed Cassie because they needed the blood of an enemy. So they pretty much jack her up. I mean, this thing is like 104 minutes, but it really didn't need to be that long. And Book is trying to like pretty much be like, do not do this spell. And they do it anyway. They gotta do the incantation 7 times. They do it. We see that the other sisters get powers for some reason because the whole conceit of the spell is you have to give up what you love most. And Winnie loves her sisters. Her sisters should have immediately gone away, but of course we got to get the dramatic thing, which makes no sense why they would get any kind of power. And when he's like, oh god, fuck man, and the book helps Becca and the rest of her coven do the spell to send Winnie to them, not bring them back. And she's like, thanks, and goes away. Gilbert and Billy try to come and help. It's like, oh god, I didn't know what was going to go on. And then Gilbert's like, yeah, I'll tell everybody that you weren't Winifred's lover. And then Billy goes off. And the thing is, we also start seeing the crow that was the mother, so she's still around. So we'll have to see what kind of goes on with that. And there's another black flame candle, as we see his cat Cobweb, making it seem like it's some other kind of cursed person or whatnot as a cat, I guess, like Binks. And they're also going to be doing a third one, but I'm like, what the fuck? That's got pretty much most of the same cast tied on for it. And I'm just like, what are you going to do with this? You just pretty much did rehash of kind of stuff of the first movie, and that severely hurt the other kind of characters. We could have got more stuff on Gilbert, on the mother, on Becca, Izzy, and Cassie. Those were the... Interestingly enough, whenever you get kind of new ones in a franchise or whatnot, it's usually the newer kind of characters that get the shaft, and the returning characters are the ones that usually get more out of it, because you've got a longer... Usually you got people that have more of a handle on them. You understand their lore, what you could kind of do, what the actors can kind of do with their characters, where they can kind of lean and expand themselves out. That was actually the opposite of what I've got here. I was more interested in Becca, Izzy, Cassie, fuck, even Cassie's boyfriend and the mayor to a degree, and more of the mother to understand why she was covenless, what's kind of going on with that, and what could kind of come from her. But they shafted them more, and were just like, let's just put these guys, let's put the Sanderson sisters back in. And that can be good for certain people that are there for just the Sanderson sisters. But the thing is, we've already got Hocus Pocus 1 that did the Sanderson sisters pretty well. We did get a little bit of character development here of understanding that they do love each other from what they were doing in the 1650s to what was kind of going on now, but that's like a basic amount of level of character development there. It really doesn't do much on the world that much. It doesn't really expand or even really have more kind of consistent magic. It kind of goes even more kind of inconsistent than the first movie, which is kind of odd for me to be able to say. It just kind of fucks more shit up than it needed to fuck up. Like the musical, like... I can kind of understand what they're doing with the spell to keep the adults out of there. But even trying to utilize the townspeople to look for Mayor Trask, it would have just been easier for them to just... They were already kind of doing shit themselves at a pretty much a Halloween festival carnival kind of thing. Just leave them there. You didn't really even need to do anything kind of spell-wise, other than you wanted to do a spell. Here on in the first one, you can kind of make the same kind of argument, but it works to their kind of effect because Max was pretty much being like, witches be out and doing shit, motherfucker. And I think it was more of a kind of insurance policy to make sure that no other adults interfere with them attempting to do what they were attempting to do that Halloween night. It's just like the potential that they had for these characters is what irks me the most. And I wasn't even going in with like giant high expectations. I'm like, alright, what are you trying to do here? And then I'm like, fuck. And then when I see what they were able to do with these characters and understand the dynamics of Izzy and Becca and Cassie, about them being drifting away and further apart and then being brought back together, trying to deal with this kind of threat. It's like, damn, they should have made that the central fucking tenet. They were interesting. I wanted to know more about them and have their story be told. More onto the effect. It's just they were trying to juggle more of the fan service and nostalgia for the Sanderson sisters. This one definitely had that detriment involved. And then Medley having, like, Hocus Pocus actually exist in the universe. It's just like, what? Alright. So, if you're a fan of Hocus Pocus, I think you'd be a fan of this. There's interesting kind of things to go on, even though you're going to just start being like, what the fuck's going on here? You get more of the Sanderson sisters. You get a little bit more in-depth for their lore, but not a lot. So there's a little bit of world building, but not to a very good extent. New character developments, very much on the new kind of ones, the new characters, some on the older characters, and action-wise, they don't really do much spell effects-wise other than the kind of usual one where they're like, they don't really have much to do, so they just do kind of blast kind of effects. It's almost like the supernatural effect where we don't have much of a budget, or we don't know what we want to do magic-wise, so we're just going to do the force push, choke, pull kind of effect. So that's what you're kind of stuck with. So if you're looking for action, this really doesn't have that much on it. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.